Hello, welcome everyone. So not only is it a classic weekend in the UK, it's actually also a classic weekend in the US with the last leg of the Triple Crown. So we've had the Kentucky Derby, we've had the Preakness Stakes, and now we have the Belmont Stakes. It is one of the biggest races in the world, really, this Belmont Stakes, and it's named after the track it's run at, Belmont. However, this year it's slightly different, isn't it? What's going on, Daniel?
Yeah, it's the Belmont, but it's not being run at Belmont, which is pretty crazy. That was true last year as well. Belmont in New York is undergoing a major reconstruction, so they've moved the race to Saratoga, upstate New York, which is significant for two reasons. Well, one is it's no longer the Belmont at the Belmont, but more importantly, they've had to cut it to 10 furlongs from the usual 12 furlongs, mile and a half. Because the Saratoga track configuration doesn't allow for that mile and a half race. So that makes a big difference. It would indeed make a difference to our analysis of this race if it was two furlongs longer.
Okay, so yeah, I was not aware of that. That would have probably put a bit of an asterisk over a Triple Crown winner if they weren't able to do it over the three separate distances this year. But alas, that is not to worry about because the two heads of the market have both won either the Derby or the Preakness Stakes. So starting talking about the Derby itself, the first three in the betting are here. They came 1, 2, 3. This must be one of the strongest runnings of the Belmont then.
Certainly in recent times, the Belmont in the last sort of 10, 20 years has often come off pretty weak for various reasons. This time, as you say, the 1, 2, 3 from the Derby are coming back, and you've got the winners of each of the first legs here facing off again. So I think it's a really strong addition, and it really does go through these three horses. There are a couple of others we'll touch on briefly, but these three stand over the others quite clearly.
Okay.
Talent, in my view.
So is it as simple as just almost playing the forecast with them repeating the Derby result if it's over the same distance?
No, there I would take issue with that. Specifically, Sovereignty, Godolphin's Sovereignty, who won the Kentucky Derby. He's co-favorite with Journalism, who he beat there into second. Co-favorites at 2-1. I would personally strongly favour Journalism here. He's favourite on the American morning line. I suspect he'll start favourite. I couldn't be absolutely certain of that. A couple of doubts about Sovereignty. He was experienced. He was an experienced runner of sort of big fields, and that 20-horse field with a very fast pace played into this deep closer's hands. He hasn't got much of a turn of foot, but he relentlessly keeps going. Journalism and Baiza were ahead of him, made moves earlier. He came and picked up Journalism in the last half furlong on a track, by the way, where he's won twice, and they've been by far his two most impressive performances. He's actually been somewhat dull elsewhere, and I wonder if Churchill Downs is his thing. So yeah, for those reasons, I'm wary of Sovereignty at short price this time out, and much prefer Journalism. Journalism, if anybody hasn't seen Journalism's win of the Preakness Stakes, tap those two words into Google and watch. It's quite astonishing. He's mullered, I think the technical term is, about a furlong, just over a furlong from home, as he tries to go for a gap that really isn't there. And all three horses are badly hampered, and I don't quite come to a halt, but it's pretty bad. One horse completely gets away, and the race is over. Except it isn't. He goes again, and his final sectional is remarkable, given that he had to do it from such trouble. I think he's a super talented horse. He's the one blot on his CV as being overtaken in the last stages of the Kentucky Derby, and yeah, I think he should be favourite. Slight question mark is that of the three, he's the one to have done all three legs, the Triple Crown, three tough, hard races on dirt in 5 weeks. The other two have all sat it out. Sovereignty and Baiza, the third, have sat it out since Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby on the first weekend in May. Baiza had by far the worst of the draw in that Kentucky Derby, probably covered more ground than the other two, was flying at the end. It wouldn't surprise me if he finished ahead of Sovereignty too, and I do think he's got a shout for the win.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and journalism, that finishing effort was so remarkable with the quick turnarounds. There must be an element of concern there. Would be enough to make me avoid playing him, because it was sort of almost reminiscent of, I know it's very, very separate but very different, but when Arrogate cocked up the start of the Dubai World Cup and then he made up all that ground, and it was a freakish performance. It was freakish to a similar extent, and Arrogate never got over that race. And I just worry that when you make an effort like that, when you're already in the doldrums and then you have to go in again from, as you say, almost a standing start, it would really concern me that it must be very hard to get over. But
would I be more concerned if he'd had 3 weeks to the Preakness and has only got 2 weeks from that? But it's the other way around. It's been 21 days since, so slightly longer. But yeah, I agree. It is a concern for him, and it's not for the other two. They're well rested and conditioned for this.
Yeah, but yeah, you wouldn't expect either of the other two to be able to perform like that. It was really, really once every few years sort of performance. So moving away from the front three and the betting, then, are there any of the other five that interest you?
You've got to mention Bob Baffert's Rodriguez, who was a very impressive winner of one of the trials, the Kentucky Derby, the Wood Memorial, 9 furlongs at Aqueduct, another New York track. He won that easily from the front, and that's where he's at his best. They've tried rating him off other horses, and it hasn't gone so well. I mean, he's been beaten double-digit lengths by journalism 2 races back. He is dangerous on the front end, but that was 9 furlongs. This is 10, and he was withdrawn from the Kentucky Derby with a bruised foot, and he was going to go to the Preakness, and the bruised foot hadn't cleared up. It was withdrawn from that as well. So now he comes in here. He's fresh. The foot problem has clearly cleared up. But with the top 3 in the betting looking pretty strong, as an each-way prospect, I'm not so sure, particularly as I don't really like the 10 furlongs. So there is a world in which he might steal this from the front, but I don't quite see it. That said, I think you can actually get 10 to 1 at the moment for him. That's not the worst price, but I have a funny feeling he'll fall in a hole in the last couple of furlongs. Okay. Beyond Rodriguez, you have Crudo for Todd Pletcher, who's another front runner. That's not something that favours Rodriguez either. He's won his last 2 races by 7-8 lengths. But they were nothing races. They were conditions races. They weren't even stakes level. The speed figure doesn't suggest he can do anything against these. I'd be pretty amazed if he was good enough. Otherwise, Uncaged is a no-hoper. And then you have 2 deep closers. Hill Road, by the way, former Adrian Murray. He was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, our first try on dirt. Stayed in the States now with Chad Brown. Closed to win a Group 3 called the Peter Pan last time out. Came from nowhere, out of the clouds. But there was a really weak race compared to this, and there are better closers than this one here, so I don't see it. And finally, one would love to see a real story for the Osborne father-daughter combo, Jamie and Saffie Osborne on Heart of Honour. Came second in a sort of fairly weak UAE Derby on World Cup night. Went to the Preakness, an honourable 5th. Looked nowhere near winning, and nowhere near the finishing in the first 3. And this is deeper still, so I can't see the fairy story happening there.
Okay, that's a shame. Yeah. Would be great because there was a bit of chat from the US trainers, or one US trainer in particular, towards the Osbornes, wondering why they were turning up in the Preakness, and then they went ahead and beat his horse, which was good to see.
Yeah, Wayne Lucas sort of didn't he teased him? Well, what are you even doing here, kind of thing. Before.
Yeah.
But then Heart of Honour duly finished ahead of Wayne Lucas's American Promise, I think it was. So, but it was all light-hearted. There was nothing sort of spiky or nasty.
Okay. Yeah. I remember watching that race thinking, Heart of Honour, Wayne Lucas was correct. What are they doing here? After the first 5 furlongs, as he's getting scrubbed along at the back. But yeah, stayed on to stay 5th, which is really impressive. And clearly,
Got an extra furlong compared to that is in Heart of Honour's favour. Could definitely see it finish at 5th or even 4th. I struggle to see any possibility of a placing there.
Okay. So final view on the race then. Do you have a better selection to put up?
I have a bet dependent on events, by which I mean not now. Although I risk betting now myself, I wouldn't advise myself to do so. What I mean by that is it's the dead 8. And it's all non-run, no bet, and have been ever since bookmakers opened it up. If it goes from dead 8 to 7 because of one withdrawal, then it's only 2 places each way. And that would be a bit of shame, because I think Baiza is a cracking each way bet at not quite getting your money back if he's placed. It's 9 to 2, so £5 each way, you get back £9. £9.50. You almost get your money back. But I think he's got a shout of the win. I really do. And I'd be staggered if he wasn't placed. So that really works as an each way in a sort of field where there's a lot of filler and you've got the dead 8. But only that'll only be known really. Wait till sort of 4 p.m. for when the final scratches come on the day. Americans always seem to find some reason to scratch 1 or more horses on the day. This one, perhaps probably less so, because everyone's intending to go for this, giant prize. But it is possible. So I'd just wait and check the road.
Okay. So yeah, in summary, keep your eyes peeled. Where would people see the news of scratchings? Where do you follow US racing news?
The New York Racing Association's Andy Serling, Serling. He's got a Twitter handle. He always posts the scratchings for all the New York tracks on the day of the event, and he's reliable between 3:30 and 4 p.m.
Okay.
Andy Serling on Twitter. Otherwise, you can go to something called Equibase. If you put Equibase and scratches into Google, and then they'll take you to Saratoga, and you can see the scratches for that day as well. But 4 p.m. UK time, the final number of runners will be known.
Okay. Excellent. So if it's an 8-runner race at 4 p.m. tomorrow, that will be Saturday our time, then Baiza each way recommended 9 to 2. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. We have our Derby preview live, our Oaks anti-post preview. To be honest, not a huge amount has changed, so that might still be slightly relevant. The field hasn't changed. Who the jockeys are riding are slightly different to what we anticipated, but still some useful nuggets in there. Hopefully, we'll also be doing some Royal Ascot previews soon, so stay tuned for those. Please subscribe. Again, head over to our Twitter site where we post more up-to-date articles and where we can react to news even quicker than we do on here. So thank you very much, anyone. Daniel, look like you've got something to say.
Yeah, one final point. I know it's utterly irrelevant to this video, but you've seen the weather deteriorating for Saturday's Derby.
Yeah.
Beware those backers of fast ground horses. Justify 12 furlongs in the mud. Ooh, not sure about this ruling court.
No, definitely. Experienced the wet weather on my way into work this morning, and not a million miles away from Epsom. But yeah, cool. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy what will sure to be a fantastic weekend's racing.